extension yesterday. After signing, he spoke to the media on his goals. Take a listen.
We're heading in the right direction, and I want to be the quarterback here. I want to bring a championship to Jacksonville. That's my goal, and I really know that we can accomplish that.
Brew, do you think Trevor can be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback?
He has not shown us that in his first 3 years. That's for sure. I will say this, though. I do think you can win a Super Bowl with him. I expect him to improve.
Well, then, so yes. So the answer is yes.
Nick Foles won a Super Bowl.
Okay, well, let's not use the Nick Foles
Flacco
standard.
Won the Super Bowl.
Go ahead.
But right now, he is not a quarterback that's going to carry you to a Super Bowl. Right now. Now, maybe he will become that in the future, but he's not shown us that yet. But the Foleses of the world, the Russell Wilson, even when he won his, and even a washed Peyton Manning, they had great defenses. He's got the offensive weapons. There's no excuse for him not to have a great offensive season.
For the second straight year, you love Gabe Davis more than anybody else.
But Gabe Davis is Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, and they got Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, I mean, they have a bunch of number 3 receivers. Thomas Jr.?
Well,
as a rookie, I think he will be good eventually. But I think I just want to follow up with you real quick. Right, like as far as carry you to a Super Bowl.
Right now, no.
No. Mahomes obviously is on that list. Stafford, I would assume you have on that list because he did it. Like, who is on that list that hasn't done it? That's my question.
Josh Allen.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar's on that list.
Absolutely. You can win. That can carry a team to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's got a 75% win rate.
Yeah.
And yes, last year he seems to be taking slow and small steps towards there. You know what I mean? He keeps going a little deeper and deeper into the playoffs. Okay. I think he learned a lot last year.
Joe Burrow, I would assume you have on that list.
Burrow's on there.
Okay.
And I would say probably C.J. Stroud and Purdy. Well, Purdy doesn't have to carry him, but you can win the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy.
But hold on,
he's proven that.
Is he in the Nick Foles category, or is he in the?
He's not. He's better than Nick Foles.
Right, but so
absolutely, he's a tier 2 quarterback.
Okay, all right, Danny, go ahead.
The big tier.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love this show. I love you. I was the one who I think put you on to Trevor Lawrence way back in the day. My wife went to Clemson. Yeah, so like
you mean he didn't discover Trevor Lawrence when he was winning games?
I mean, I don't know. The guy played for Clemson, was undefeated national champion. I don't know anyone had to be put on to him. I was unaware. Like it was on.
I mean, I knew about him. He was competing with Justin Fields, best prospect in Georgia.
But go ahead.
6th grade, 7th grade. Here are. You love facts, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can we just show touchdowns against turnovers?
Oh,
sure.
He's done nothing yet.
I mean, if you add up the touchdowns, that's 69 touchdowns. If you add up the turnovers,
he has a fumbling problem.
That's okay, but I only gave you the fumbles
60.
lost.
Yeah.
That's 60 turnovers.
Right.
If I give you total
33.
fumbles, it's more turnover-worthy plays than touchdowns. And that carries over to his 2 playoff games where he had the 4-touchdown, 4-interception game, and then he was 1-1 in that game against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So it's a 1-to-1 touchdown to turnover ratio in playoff games. Yeah. This guy turns the ball over way too much to win big with. Maybe someday into the future, but you love evidence. There's nothing we've seen.
I'll give you the evidence. It's the same evidence we had.
Yeah,
no, it's the same evidence. Wait to show it.
Here we go.
It's the same evidence we had with with Josh Allen. Josh Allen, your guy's favorite quarterback other than Mahomes. Josh Allen had a really rough rookie year, showed flashes his 2nd year, and then his 3rd year looked excellent. Trevor Lawrence last year, before he got hurt, here is his numbers, and we will. No, it's the first 11. What's up, Hubs? The first 11 games. Yeah, that's what it is. The first 11 games last year. He had the same record for you quarterback wins, folks, as the best quarterback alive and the league MVP.
That ain't awesome, Nick. 15-7? I mean, I'm sorry. It's not.
Hold on.
And you know Mahomes had a down year.
Right. I understand that. And this guy is 23 years old. When this season.
Brock Purdy's numbers destroyed us.
Brew, hold on. Do you actually think the Niners would rather have, if the salaries were the same, would rather have Brock Purdy than Trevor Lawrence?
Right now, Brock Purdy is better than Trevor Lawrence. He has been better than Trevor Lawrence.
Hold on. He has a better statistical resume. But who is the better player?
Right now, Brock Purdy.
Okay.
See, no, I don't.
I'm just looking at
right,
facts. Hold on, you were the facts guy a minute ago.
I know.
Brock
But
Purdy has played better than Trevor Lawrence
So
thus far.
Situations matter.
Brock Purdy, because the question is, can he carry you to a Super Bowl? Could the Jags would be better off with Brock Purdy than Trevor Lawrence?
All I'm not looking at hypotheticals.
But
I'm looking at right now.
This whole thing is hypothetical.
Right now, who
Drew,
has played
I gotta
better
tell you
at
something
quarterback?
real quick.
It's June.
There is not another game that's going to be played in basketball or football for 2.5 months.
That's why
the
we
whole
go on
show's
what they've
hypotheticals.
done. No,
it's
Brock
looking
Purdy
forward.
has played better than Trevor Lawrence so far.
Right.
Situations, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, that was a funny segment, and we needed Wilds there to kind of, moderate that. Okay, listen, I'm in agreement with Nick right here, where I think Trevor Lawrence is being misaligned. This is why you have to go beyond the stats. I don't even think Nick Wright is using these stats as a means to build up his point, and I actually disagree with that. Because I don't even think that those stats necessarily show, oh, hey, look, he's good. Because if that's the case, then you have to kind of then use the stats that take away from him. And so I just think that with Trevor Lawrence, to me, it's very clear that he has the talent, that he has the ability, that he has the skill set, but he hasn't had the coaching and the team behind him. Let's not pretend like the Jaguars have been this great, franchise, this highly run organization with great coaching, great players, this, that, and the third. So when we're comparing and Lamar Jackson is an outlier because Lamar Jackson is such a physical specimen that I think Lamar Jackson is in a position to be able to do more with less than really any other quarterback, quite frankly. Even more than a Josh Allen, even though I think Josh Allen is a better quarterback than Lamar. But with Lamar's just sheer speed, it just kind of really opens up the doors. But with all that said, I'm curious because people seem to be, I don't want to say high on Doug Peterson, but they're a little, they're higher on Doug Peterson than I would have thought necessarily. Because I think the real question is Doug Peterson, is he more Mike McCarthy or is he more Andy Reid? Where is he closer to? Is he closer to Mike McCarthy or is he closer to Andy Reid? Because a lot of people, he had very quick success with Philly. He turned that franchise around, was really able to take off, where Andy left off really, even though obviously there was another coach in between, Chip Kelly, but they were very low on Chip Kelly and very unhappy. And Doug Peterson really stabilized that. There was a moment where Philly could have gone and really taken a dive and kind of not been held up to the standard that the Eagles had been for so many years. And then Doug Peterson was really able to stabilize that, got Carson Wentz, and then boom, right? Carson Wentz had an MVP caliber year, won the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback in Nick Foles, which is what they brought up. And that continued to build the lore. There's a statue of Doug Peterson. But then he gets fired. Whether that was the right decision or the wrong decision, it just then, he then goes to Jacksonville, and he was able to stabilize now Jacksonville after a terrible hire from the Jags, but it still hasn't fully come together necessarily. And this is where you have to kind of be a detective. You have to figure out what has been holding back the Jaguars. Is it a combination of things? Is Trevor Lawrence really not that good? Is the team really not that good? Is Doug Peterson not that good? What is the situation? And this is the way how I look at it. I think Doug Peterson is more Mike McCarthy. He is a good coach, not a great coach, not an elite coach. He can stabilize a franchise. Mike McCarthy would be is a good coach for majority of the teams out there who don't have a McVay, a Shanahan, and Andy Reid. Especially if you're like the Carolina Panthers or the Texans before they had their coach. These teams that are really struggling, a Mike McCarthy can stabilize you. The players are going to respect you. You know that he can run an organization. He can run a coaching staff. He can hire. He can do that. He can either sustain good quarterback play or even improve quarterback play. He can do those things. But is he going to be the difference maker in a game? Can he out-coach the other coach? Can he out-scheme the other team? And I'm not so sure that Mike McCarthy has that ability, and I'm not so sure that Doug Peterson has that ability. Again, as I always say, he famously didn't even call the trick play for Nick Foles. Now, listen, he had to have the courage to give the go-ahead because it still stops with him. But Nick Foles marched right up to him and said, Philly special or whatever it was, Philly special. And Doug Peterson goes, okay. Like, it wasn't even remotely in Doug Peterson's mind. Not even close. It clearly caught him off guard. And he was like, okay. Like that was it. So again, on one side, that's good coaching because he went with it and said, yeah, great, let's do it. Let's roll with it. But it was also not his call. If Nick Foles did not make, because it was on Nick Foles' mind. Nick Foles immediately marched up to him and said, Philly special? And he was like, okay. So they were not going to call that play. And that obviously ended up being a major game changer in that game. So I just think that, and you have to remember too, you also have to understand that to win Super Bowls, outside of some of these outlier situations, the vast majority, it's like 70-some%, I forget the exact, but very, very high, the Super Bowls are won by Hall of Fame coaches and Hall of Fame quarterbacks. That's just what it takes. You need to have great coaches, elite coaches, great quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks. That's the way it goes. There's obviously exceptions to this, but the vast majority are won by Hall of Famers. So, again, we talk about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and some of these other, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Like, it's not a surprise that these top-performing, all-time great quarterbacks and all-time great coaches have each other. It's just that's what you need for greatness. Patrick Mahomes is not winning all those Super Bowls without another Hall of Fame coach. Just not happening. Tom Brady's not winning all of his Super Bowls without a Hall of Fame coach. So so then again, you have to figure out then what is the standard? If you're a great quarterback, how great does your coach need to be? How great does your roster need to be? So I just don't think it's fair for people to act like Trevor Lawrence isn't a good quarterback because he hasn't done enough just yet. And it's like, well, but what are his circumstances? Because I would say, considering his circumstances, he's actually done pretty well. He's kept this organization afloat. And that's where I do think that 8-3 record and those stats do kind of show that, because it's like, well, look what he's doing right now. He doesn't have an amazing roster. He doesn't have a top level coach. What do we expect from him? And then he did get injured and banged up. And the whole idea of like, well, if you're out there, there's no excuses. That is just such nonsense. That is just pure nonsense. So to me, in a nutshell, Trevor Lawrence has proven to be a really good quarterback that under the right circumstances can be great and can be elite. There's also different types of quarterbacks that can take over games, that can do more with less. And Trevor Lawrence is a little bit more on the spectrum of a Tom Brady than he is a Mahomes or a Lamar. A Lamar and a Josh Allen can do more with less. They're in a position where they can overcome the deficit of their roster more because of their physicality, because of what they can do, and the deficit of their coach more. Trevor Lawrence isn't in that situation. He doesn't have that same level of dynamic play to him, so he is a little bit more beholden to his roster. But that's not a dig on Trevor Lawrence, because Tom Brady was a little bit more beholden to his roster, and that doesn't mean that he's not the GOAT or that makes him less than, say, a Patrick Mahomes. So again, it's always this complete picture. It's always having to look at this from 360 degrees. And Brew is all about the eye test. He talks about the eye test probably more than any other person on TV. And I'm a huge proponent of the eye test. If you know ball, if you know basketball, football, soccer, baseball, whatever it is, the eye test to me is more important than stats. You can get stats to show you anything. Stats are so misleading, but the eye test really does not lie because you can see it. You can see if a guy puts up 500 passing yards. If you watch a game, you can say, but was that really because of the quarterback, or was he throwing to wide open wide receivers? Was that defense just terrible? Did someone fall down? Was it blown coverage on multiple plays? Like, stats lie all the time, but the eyes don't. So if you actually watch the games and watch how they unfold, you will see that Trevor Lawrence is not the problem. Are turnovers a problem? Yes, absolutely. But again, you have to figure out, where do those come from? Does it come from immaturity? Does it come from lack of skill, lack of talent? Does it come from him trying to do too much? You have to figure that out. That's why Josh Allen's turnovers don't bother me as much, because he has a lot of turnovers, but it's because he's forced to do so much with not as much. He's forced to try to go out and win every game, that he does have to push the ball down the field, that he does have to throw for 4 touchdowns or rush for 3. Otherwise, the Bills aren't going to win. He's asked to do so much more that it's like, well, of course he turns the ball over more. That makes total sense to me. So you have to figure out, why has Trevor Lawrence not had the success that people thought he would? And the reality is like, he was drafted to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they hired a college coach his rookie year, which has been absurd. And so now he has finally been able to play a couple years under Doug Peterson. When he finally got rated, that continued into this past season, and they were playing very good, very solidly, especially depending on the roster. And again, Kirk got injured, and Trevor got injured. And it's just like, well, then what are you expecting them to be able to continue to win and play good? Like, that doesn't really make sense. If Travis Kelce went down, Mahomes' numbers would have gone down even more, right? We know that. So I just think it's not fair to just put all of the failures on Trevor Lawrence, when in reality, you can actually put all of the successes for the Jaguars on Trevor Lawrence. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about? Do you think Trevor Lawrence is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback? And to be clear, I don't think I actually answered this question. I do. I think he is absolutely a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.